clients can choose to put in.
Right, so maybe they just want to, yeah, like you said, I think it's due diligence, they want to check up on you and make sure you're real. You know.
Sound politically right.
Yeah. Who do you vote for?
Except I check up on them and make sure they're real.
Yeah, well, I really wouldn't. That's a good question. I've never had that before. I mean, LinkedIn, yeah, you know, I always check the LinkedIn profile. And most employers would check the LinkedIn profile, definitely. You know.
But in your experience, do you feel that not HR or you be yourself, do you look into take a look at your candidates, Facebook, social media?
No, I definitely don't look at people's Facebook profiles.
Usually what happens is after you've been issued a letter of offer and you have actually signed an employment contract, so HR may actually run additional reference check where they actually may go in to actually do a random Google search on your name.
Yes.
Or then look at your LinkedIn, Facebook accounts more from the perspective.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. So I think you want to, which is why I say you want to have a good image online, right? Where you want to have a good image online, and I'm pretty sure that with Facebook you can have enough security controls on that people don't actually. They might see your name or your picture, but that's as far as they're allowed to go.
Another curious question: they do actually Google search?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
I mean, banks are really to check on customers.
So to give you an idea, right? So most banks, if you apply to banks or any financial institution, they will do a third-party check on you. So they'll use companies like Higher Right or First Advantage, and what they do is they really dig down into your credit history, if you've been bankrupt, if you've got any loans outstanding. So they get really deep criminal convictions. So they do those checks anyways. It's I mean. From our perspective, and what I'm trying to share is more around the fact that you will get that checked anyways, and the government of Singapore allows that to happen. So they allow them to check that because you can't have someone who was convicted of fraud 2 years ago working as a technology risk guy, but it's more the stuff your employer sees, it's like LinkedIn profile, it's up to date, it's standard, it's good. Facebook, it's up to you really, I would suggest that you keep it personal, but if you want to use that for whatever reason, if you work in a digital company or a social media company, then yeah, of course Facebook is going to be a big medium for you to go out there and sell, right? But otherwise, from your perspective, you want to keep it pretty,
So still one question about the LinkedIn. Let's say the one you got a account, your manager also got an account. So let's say you keep updating. So does it mean you want to change your job, something like that? So it's not good for you.
Man, everyone's changed their jobs. No, I don't think that's the case. I think you're just updating your profile. I don't think that's because you update your profile. Is that what you're asking me? You're asking me if you update the profile, then are they?
Sometimes I feel my manager will go through my LinkedIn account. I don't know what does it.
Is he connected with you on LinkedIn?
Sorry?
Is he a connection? Are you connected with your manager on LinkedIn?
No connection, but he's public.
Yeah, I mean, I'm connected with my manager on LinkedIn. I update it all the time. I mean, I get calls from other companies frequently. I mean, I think people know that, right? It's not, I don't think any of you should be scared to update anything on LinkedIn because someone might call me for a job. I might call you for a job tomorrow, right? So that's not going to change, so you don't need to feel worried about that.
Other than company-specific confidential information in your description of projects. But that's like a whole different thing. But just sort of the standard thing that would be on a resume anyway.
Yeah.
You're saying it's just a norm. It's okay. You can update it, but keep company confidential information out of descriptions.
Yeah,
naturally.
I mean, most people, would put in things like LinkedIn. You've got like what you're interested in, job opportunities, consulting opportunities. Well, if you've got that in there, then your manager will, well, there you go. So he's interested in job opportunities. So clearly he's not. But everyone has that. Everyone's interested in job opportunities. Your manager would himself or herself be interested in job opportunities. No one's not interested in job opportunities. So it's always. So I wouldn't worry about that. Unless he's really, quite, you shouldn't be looking at job opportunities. But
he's going to be worried with Robert Half.
Maybe if you told him you were at a recruitment seminar last time, maybe you weren't. But I wouldn't worry about that.
This isn't a recruitment seminar.
No, it's not.
It's a
No.
professional
It is.
enhancement
It
experience.
is. I wish I had sort of tools and I could touch the screen, but I don't have that.
So Steve, just on one question specific to Facebook, right? You mentioned to keep it as private as possible. So
That's just my personal view. Yeah.
Yeah, but there will be situations where your co-workers, your colleagues, or even your boss actually trying to add you on Facebook. So how would one actually deal with such situation?
Well,
That's a really good point, right? So I just choose, really. If I like you on my LinkedIn, my Facebook account, or if I think I want to have you as my friend. So my Facebook account is really my friends, and my LinkedIn account is my professional. Obviously, some colleagues of mine are my friends, and they are on my Facebook page, and some colleagues I don't really have a friendship with, so they are not. But yeah, boss is a hard one, right? Because you've got to I don't know.
I have a line that I usually do. So if I join a new company, I have a co-colleague asking me to add it to Facebook because everyone is connected. I just say that I have a principle, no offense, that I don't add any co-colleagues. If I leave the firm, yes. If I don't leave the firm, no.
So that's a good point, right? So, and especially in the sales world, people do that. They don't connect you with anything until they leave, and then they connect you. So yeah. I think with the boss one, it's up to you. Up to you, really. Hopefully, if your boss adds you on Facebook, it's a good thing because he or she likes you, or unless you clearly don't have a good relationship, and you're like, this is weird, because he wants to keep tabs on you, right? So. So it's, or maybe it's time to leave. Okay, so I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a very individual thing, and I can't, it's kind of hard for me to sort of tell you, yeah, you should be a friend with that person or not, Okay, so what have we done there? Okay, so as you mentioned, people Google you.
Can I ask, should we maintain our LinkedIn account and CV differently?
Yes. Well, I think your LinkedIn account should be your elevator pitch, in a sense. What do you do? Your three things. What do you cover? Keywords. So I'm a liquidity risk expert. I work in asset management, whatever. That's key. Your CV should have more information about what you're doing, the projects you worked on, how big is the project, that kind of stuff, right? So I wouldn't expect a CV to be on LinkedIn, but I would expect your LinkedIn profile to lead me or someone to ask you for your CV. Does that make sense? Right? So it's sort of you want your LinkedIn profile to attract people, or I want to speak to, Steve, because clearly he's got the right skill set, but let me dig deeper and find out a bit more about his actual experience. So digital footprint, I think we sort of covered this a little bit about your brand and what does it say about you, and I think I don't want to go into too much, but just as a if you've got a common name, if you want to be more specific about who you are, so people can sort of pick you up, or if you want to be anonymous, that's up to you. But I think most people do Google you. So I'll give you a good example. It's a funny story. Right? So I was hiring someone from Australia to work for me last year, and this person, CV and everything, we interviewed them, my MD interviewed them, Stella Symes, my boss interviewed him, it was all fine. He didn't have a LinkedIn account, which is very unusual for a recruiter not to have a LinkedIn account, right? So I'm like, what do you do? How do you find your candidates? And his CV was, so we got our office in Perth to interview this person, and we found out that he lied about the CV. We found out that he wasn't actually working in the company, or one of the companies that he said. So we said, we want to do a reference check on you, and I'd like to call your current boss. And he said, oh no, he's not my current boss. And he was working for company X. So Stella and I said, this is a bit weird, so we called up company X, just pretending to be him, and said, hi, could we speak to the guy? And they go, oh, he left two years ago. Right? So from that perspective, it was kind of good that we didn't have his profile, because it kind of led to us sort of digging deeper and say, well, clearly you're lying, and then we just sent him a polite email saying, thank you, but we won't be hiring you. But that's what I mean by, so you might want to have a conversation, people know, okay, so he said who he is, he's online, and you know, I think most people are a bit weird if you're not online these days, because you know, they're like, really? So that's what we mean. I think the third point's important, and it comes back to what you were mentioning about, you know, LinkedIn and forums and stuff. You know, add information that's you know, about what you're talking about. Don't just add random stuff. You know, people put all these maths quizzes on LinkedIn. You know, if you're a genius, you know, 9 + 9 or whatever. You know, that doesn't mean, you know, no one knows. You know, if you've got time to do that, then well, I don't. Good, but you know, it's put stuff that's important. You know, like, you know, people put things like, you know, the Barclays job situation, or what's happening in, you know, in China, or how does that affect, you know, the new MAS regulation, and that makes sense. It's credible. It means you're reading up on what you're talking about. You're in the industry. You're like, okay, you know, it makes no sense. You know, and I think participating in LinkedIn groups is good as long as the group is relevant to your industry. You know, if you're in, you know, a LinkedIn chess group, then you know, maybe that, you know, isn't as vital as to, you know, a LinkedIn technology group or a compliance group. Do any of you write your own, start your own social media feeds or blogs, or, you know, like startup questions on LinkedIn or things like that? No? That's fine. I'm not saying, but I mean, you know, it's if you do that, you just stand out on LinkedIn. That's all. You sort of have a bit more of a, you know, sort of an image. Any more questions on this before I move on? I think we've covered this, right? We sort of talked about this, right? So really quickly, LinkedIn networking tips, coming back to the profile bit, you know, have a 100% profile. Don't leave things out like education or any groups that you're part of. You know, make sure that, you know, you've got information there. Take notice is more about taking notice of what your colleagues and stuff are doing. So be prepared to share certain things, be prepared to like certain things. Unfortunately, sometimes we're in that, you know, world that kind of, it's politically correct to do that. Quality over quantity, it comes back to your point. You don't want to say yes to everyone. You want to, you know, keep it professional. And recommendations, you know, I mean, people that have this thing where they endorse everyone for everything. You know, people endorse me. I've never met these guys. You know, I don't know how they know that I'm good at this. But so if I were going to go and get a recommendation, I would go to a client of mine and say, I've done work with you. Would you recommend me? You know, would you say something about me that Steve's done this or whatever? So, you know, that's how I would you know, go about getting recommendations. Just want to really quickly touch about training, and this is just more around, you know, the softer skills. To keep your skills current, whether that be, you know, leadership training or you know, your respective industry training. Okay. I think it just shows that you're going to be more marketable, and I think it sort of helps you in your own sort of job satisfaction in terms of what you want to do. I won't spend too much time on this because it's a bit soft, but I'll talk a bit more about certifications, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I think is happening in the industry. So, certifications are always helpful, and they're getting more and more specific, and they're getting more and more, you know, it complements your CV. So don't ever think getting a certification will help you get a job without experience. Okay, that does not work. You know, the amount of people who tell me I'm a PM because I've got PMP certification, I don't care. You know, and neither does my client. You know, you've got to have project management experience with a PMP certificate to help you get that job. Right, so it helps you because it gives you a structure and a format to be able to run a project. So what's important? Prince 2, PMI, PMP is good for project management. If you're in the change space, ITIL is good. If you do anything with risk, that could be, you know, you're an AML certified, you've got CISSP, CISA, you know, anything to do with audit or risk or compliance or security, any of those technologies or those services are important. From an FS perspective, financial services, CFA, you know, that's always helpful. You know, as technology professionals today, we can't unfortunately stick with technology. You know, we are too in the middle. You know, technology is everywhere and everything. So you can't be, I don't want to do that business thing because, you know, it doesn't work that way. You've got to be in the cold face. You've got to be, you know, talking to the business all the time. So that's really important. But in terms of certifications, you know, there's some good points there about why it's important. You know, it also demonstrates your longing to sort of succeed. and wanting to get that extra, initiative, wanting to get that extra, thing alongside your name, and it does help you move up the chain. It also helps hiring managers in terms of hiring people because it makes it very easy for them. Just wrapping up really quickly, career advice, right? I mean, I just want to talk to you a little bit about soft skills because I think that's really important. A lot of technology people are technology people, through no fault of theirs. All I want to say about that is you've got to be able to communicate with business today, right? You cannot, I'm obviously looking for a head of technology risk for Asia, and I found, and it's hard to find people who are able to drive agendas with the business because you've got to stand in a room with senior C-level people, and these are business people, right? So they don't know anything technology, okay? It's your job to tell them what technology is, to translate that for them. And I think that is becoming more and more part of, the technology professional's life, where you need to be able to be the bridge between the business and technology, and be able to drive technology in your business and enhance technology. I mean, it's easy if you work for a technology firm like Oracle or Google because then, it doesn't matter. But if you work for a bank, most banking professionals, like on the business side, really don't care about technology, right? All they want to know is, am I making money, right? Are we meeting our goals from a finance perspective, right? They don't really care about the platform we use. Is it are we using a risk platform? Is it Murex or is it Calypso or whatever? It's So you as professionals today, the ones that do well in technology, the ones who tend to do very well are the ones who have those attributes. You have strong technical skills, so you're able to know what you're talking about, but you're also big picture, you have very strong communication skills, you have interpersonal skills, rapport building skills, and number three, you've got to know your regulatory stuff. You've got to know what's going on in the market. For those of you who are financial services, a lot of you here, you can't go up to an interview and somebody says to you, do you know what the MAS requirement is? And you're like, no, that's just not going to look good. But yeah, does that make sense? What I've just said? Do you understand what I'm trying to say about soft skills? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say you need to be slick or talk a fancy game. I'm just saying you need to be able to communicate what you know technically and pass it to the business. Because it's very hard for you to convince a stakeholder to sign off on something, or your CFO, for example, right? If they don't believe in what you're talking about, they're like, I don't know what he's saying, but he wants $2 million. I have no clue what he's saying. And you're saying I should buy this thing and it'll be fine. You've got to be able to, well, the reason I want a Murex system is because our trades are going to blah, 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 right? So, but that's sort of from a soft skill perspective, I think flexibility and adaptability is what I mentioned earlier on. You've got to be willing to travel. And as young Singaporeans, I encourage you to take, just stand up and say, I'll travel, I'll do that. I think it's important for you because it'll help you in the long run. There are a lot of regional roles in Singapore, and you've got to have that exposure regionally, and sometimes that involves traveling. Thank you very much for your time. And if you want to connect with me, please feel free to. And if you want to ask me any questions, those are my details. I wish you all the best in your careers and those of you who are finishing your studies. Thank you.
Any questions they would like to ask Steve?
So, as we are both the technology side, and several years, those years experience, right? We know the business knowledge usually is more important, and we come here to study. But after combining with technical knowledge and business knowledge, we don't know what's the next step to further leverage the knowledge. So could you give some?
So you're saying you've got a mix of technology and business skills.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're saying how do you leverage that?
Yes.
Well, if you were just a technology person, right, and you came to me for a job, I would say, okay, these are the jobs I have. Okay? Depending on your Java, .NET developer, system engineer, right? If you come to me with a business skill, then all of a sudden you go more into the soft part of the technology world, which could be implementation, business analysis, pre-sales. There are a lot of other opportunities from that perspective. Now, some people don't want to do that, right? Some people are very techy and they want to be architects. They like coding, or they like playing with servers, whatever, right? So, but if you've got a business degree, the way I would leverage that is if you want to do a job where you are either you're working with a front office team. So if you're a pre-sales job, so you want to talk to you want to talk to the sales team.
So basically, you have consulting skills in
Exactly.
addition to technical skills.
Exactly.
And that's sort of what this MITB program does. It's sort of that.
Yeah, so perfectly put, right? So you have something else that a technical person might not be able to offer, because you are able to go to a client and say, well, this is why you should buy this, or they might have bought it, and you can show them why it's good for them. Whereas a technical person is probably the guy who's done it, but then he stops. He can't do it. Whereas you've done it as well, but you've also got the ability to go and say, well, this is why it works. This is why it's going to help your business. So that's how I would leverage it. So maybe you want to work for Oracle and work on their pre-sales implementation side. Guys, if any of you have to go, please feel free to go. It's Friday night now. I understand. Don't worry.
Sorry, I have a question
We're going to
regarding
after this. Sorry.
I have a question regarding the salary package. Maybe this need your insight, because I myself work in different firm, but I haven't worked enough to see the whole industry. How many percentage of company are willing to pay you as per market rate, market benchmark based on salary, and versus how many percentage of them actually pay you based on your last drawn plus a certain percentage?
It's a good point. 70% of people would pay you in the last drawn salary.
So the problem is, like I was working in India, so we were drawing salary in INR. But when you come to the Singapore market, so they ask us about our last salary and